Welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root, where we dive deep into understanding and addressing root causes of chronic health issues so you can help and find healing inside and out, now and forever.
Hello, and welcome to Trifecta Collective, Finding the Root. I'm Megan Abbott, owner and founder of the holistic health practice at Trifecta Collective. Welcome to the podcast. So, Happy New Year, first and foremost. I hope you had a great end of the year, holiday season, all of the things, and super excited to have this as our first episode going into the new year here. So today, what I wanted to do to kickstart the new year is share a handful, and I came up with 12. 12, we can call them lessons, we can call them reminders, just different things that have really been reinforced in my life over the past 2 years, and arguably my two biggest years of change. And if you had asked me 2 years ago in January, so January of 2024, what is your life going to look like in January of 2026? All but the business and having this business, I would never have expected my life to look like this. And I'm very grateful for the life that I have now and the people that I have in my life and all of the things. And one of the biggest things, a few big things. So one, we typically get good feedback on episodes like this, and people like to hear a little bit more about my story and things that are going on with me and how I'm overcoming or processing or working through different things. And, we all go through change. Change is a constant. And I don't think everyone's going to relate to all of these things. And I think most of you are going to relate to many of these things as you go through your healing journey. And once again, some of these are, I won't say any of them are super new, but a lot of them have been reinforced. And once again, I'm also seeing these themes, many of these themes come up with clients. And, if I'm going through similar things, if I'm working with a couple people and some of my one-on-one clients are going through similar things, I can pretty much guarantee many of us are going through a lot of these things. And so I think these lessons or stories or whatever we want to call them can have a lot of value here. And I could have made a list of 20 things and I came up with 12. And I'm going to try and keep this episode to an hour or less. And this is one of those episodes where I could probably talk for a few hours if I thought that was going to be super valuable. So that being said, if you would like for me to maybe do a part 2 of this or expand on any certain pieces of the things I'm going to talk about today, comment, DM, email us, whatever's the easiest for you. Let us know, because we always want to continue to try and make more content that you want to see and that you want to hear about and want to engage with. So let's get started here. And I'll also say these are in no particular order. I also may change the order that I share some of these in as I created this list last week, and now I'm going back and reviewing them. And yeah, I'm going to just go in a little bit of a random order here. So none of these are in highest priority to least priority. It is random. So the first one I have on here is pursue the life that you want. Whew, this is a big one for me. So once again, if you don't know kind of what the shifts and changes that I've made in my personal life over the last 2 years, highlight reel here. So in November of 2023, I did a healing journey, and a lot came up, a lot of newer things came up for me during that experience. And I was having a really hard time processing. I was holding on to energies and things that weren't mine. After that, there was just a lot. There was a lot of internal turmoil, we can call it, that was going on that led me to go to Colombia down in South America to do an ayahuasca journey in March of 2024. And this is really where things started to shift. And I do want to say that, with these psychedelic experiences, it's not, especially because I have participated in many, 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 many journeys. I'll say this past year, 2025, was the first year I did not do a full journey. And my relationship with psychedelics has greatly shifted over the last year in particular. And I'm sure will also shift a lot going into this year as well. And a lot of the things that came up for me during this ayahuasca experience were not new. They were not, I did not make a lot of decisions solely based on this experience alone. What it really happened is this experience and the people, and arguably more importantly, the people that I was with, really opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was ignoring, that I was hiding from, avoiding, was choosing not to look at, was choosing not to acknowledge, were in existence. And so after that experience, uh, within a handful of weeks, I told my husband at that time that I wanted a divorce. He is not a bad person. It was not the relationship I wanted anymore. I didn't want to be the person I was in that relationship. And I did not foresee it shifting in the way that I really desired my life to do so. I also wanted to leave Virginia. And I was largely raised in Pittsburgh, and then I moved to Virginia to go to college and really never left, and was in the city of Richmond, or the greater city of Richmond, for the majority of that. I lived in Northern Virginia for just a little bit, but I needed to leave the East Coast. And I knew that once again, like coming back. So I said I wanted a divorce, that I wanted to sell the house we had bought. And we had a dog that I said was better for him at that point in time to take, which was a very arguably the hardest part of that whole decision. And I was going to travel and figure out where I wanted to live next and where I wanted to be. And so I sold my car. I got a new car, a newer car, and packed up my stuff, sold a lot of my stuff, and left. And that happened towards the end of June of 2024. And not too long after that, a friend and I had shared that we had feelings for each other, and had started talking about what that might look like if we pursued those in all of the ways. And especially knowing that I was just coming out of a divorce and making all of these life-changing decisions. And we decided to pursue a relationship. And him and I, Jonathan, my now fiance, and I got together, and that was totally new, totally different. He was a totally different person than what I expected, who I expected to be with. And we stayed in Michigan for a few months and then decided to travel together, and went to Colorado and decided that we wanted to live a nomadic life for the foreseeable future. So we decided to buy an RV and live an RV life. And we went from Colorado to New Mexico to Arizona, and we were planning on spending the winter in Arizona. And then early last year, early 2025, Jonathan started having some weird health stuff come up. And by early March, he was diagnosed with cancer. He had stage 2 lymphatic or Hodgkin's lymphoma. And we decided to stay in Arizona so that he could get treatment. And we decided that he was going to go through chemo, which was a whole new thing for me as well. Oncology is not my area of specialty, and to choose not to go a more natural route was a big decision for both of us. And then a few months after that, we got engaged. So in January, he started to have some interesting health symptoms. And by early March, he was diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin's lymphoma, unfavorable. based on the symptoms that he was experiencing. And he has a history of 2 traumatic brain injuries and has long-term side effects from those that did not help anything at that time, especially. And in June of last year, we got engaged, and then after treatment, I guess shortly after we got engaged, I started having some health issues, and then he ended treatment by September. We decided to stay in Arizona for another winter. He got a job. He started volunteering and then got a job. And I mean, it's just been the variety of changes going on. And what I have really come to realize is, so many of us are taught to pursue a specific type of life, of a job, to have a relationship, to get married, to have children, to have a family, to get a home, to like do all these things. And my question for you is that really what you want? And at the same time, keep checking in with yourself to make sure that's still what you want. For me, being with my ex-husband, buying a house, getting a dog, those were all things I really wanted. And it felt very safe. It felt very secure. It was a lot of things I didn't have. It was a lot of the stability I didn't have growing up. And that was what I wanted at the time. And then it wasn't. And I did not come to any of my decisions lightly. There was a lot of thought. There were a lot of factors that went into all of my decisions. And I knew that it was time. And a lot of that took a lot of trust in myself, in understanding this is not what I want right now. I don't know exactly what I want, but I'm going to start moving forward one step at a time, sometimes a few steps at a time, or a giant leap at a time, to pursue the life that I wanted. And I talk about this a lot with a lot of clients at various points in their healing journey. And it's, what do you want right now? What kind of life do you want to live? Do you want to live in a city? Do you want to live in the city that you are currently living in? Do you want to be with your current partner? Do you want kids? Do you want more kids? Do you want a different style of friends, different style of community? Do you want to move out into the boondocks and build a farm and live off the land and live a totally different lifestyle? And my invitation really for you here is, check in with yourself regularly and always be pursuing the life that you want, not the life you think you should want. And there's a big difference for a lot of us. And one thing I will say is, for any of you, and this is not all of our clients, and there's a lot of clients we work with who do fall into this category, where if you grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, and I'm putting myself in this category, sometimes we don't know what we actually want in our lives until we get some semblance of a quote unquote normalcy, of safety, of security. And for me, that's what I wanted for a long time. I wanted the house. I didn't necessarily want to get married, but I wanted a stable partner. I wanted a house. I wanted roots. I wanted a dog. For me, I didn't really want kids. And so like for me, that was a dog. I wanted a dog. I wanted a companion like that. I wanted someone to care for, and something to really light me up. And a dog really did that for me for a while. And I still think about my dog all the time, and still look at pictures, and I still check in on him to make sure he's okay. And I know he's happy. And that's what I wanted for a long time. And then after a few years of having that and going even deeper into my own healing, I wanted something different. And that's okay. And it's okay to change your mind, for things to shift, for things to change, and for your pursuits to look different. So that's number one. Pursue the life that you want. And I'll also kind of couple that with number 2 here, and that it's never too late. It's never too late for anything. It's never too late to pursue the life you want, to pursue the partner you want, to pursue the job that you want, to pursue the family that you want, to pursue the lifestyle that you want, to pursue the body, the healing, whatever it is, it's never too late. We work with people in their teens, late teens, up until the oldest client I think I've ever worked with was in his mid to late 80s. And it's never too late. Now, are the results going to be the same starting something in your 70s versus starting something in your 20s? No. And you have a lot more wisdom, a lot more knowledge, and that is not to be discounted. And it may feel harder to shift things at certain ages, and it is never too late. I'm also going to couple that with my next one here, and that is number 3 would be enjoy the journey. And I think really all 3 of these go hand in hand in that, we get a lot of people sometimes, and I can always tell when I talk to someone right off the bat, I'm like, man, we're going to have a lot of trauma to work through. And a lot of people are very focused on this imaginary endpoint of, I hope to get to here. And when I am here, I will be happy. Oh, man, is that a huge lie that we tell ourselves? I mean, all of us tell ourselves, if I look a certain way, if I do a certain thing, if I reach a certain milestone, if I fill in the blank, that will make me happy. It won't. I can promise you that it won't. I mean, man, working in the personal training space, especially in the personal training management space, I interviewed a lot of trainers over the years, and I'll say that with practitioners too, but I'm gonna really relate this to personal training because I think it really applies to a lot of us, especially women. And one of the questions I would always ask is with whatever company I was working with was, why did you get into this space in the first place? 9 times out of 10, especially with any female trainers, and with most of the male trainers too, I was looking to look a certain way. I was looking to change my physical body, and I can tell by how they say that they were hoping to feel a certain way. And some were able to acknowledge that. Some of the more veteran ones were able to admit that, oh, I was looking to look a certain way because I thought that would make me happy, or I thought I would gain confidence, or whatever. And I'll also tell you that most people in the personal training space have a history or ongoing issue with eating disorders and or disordered eating. I mean, almost all of us. And once again, I'm putting myself in this category. And we're looking to control something. We're looking to shift something because we think that if we have control over this thing, that if we look a certain way, we're going to feel a certain way, and that's going to make us happy. And it doesn't. And I'll continue to tell you this now. I mean, and for some clients, it's harder to acknowledge or to really feel into this, that looking a certain way is never going to make you happy. Getting to a certain milestone is never going to make you happy. If you look at the studies that say, like, if you earn a certain amount of money, you'll be happy. Now, there is a baseline to this where once a certain level of needs are met, there is no extended level of happiness that comes along with additional money. And I 100% believe that. And once again, I'll compare this to health. And not that I've ever been wildly financially abundant. I've never been a millionaire, a multimillionaire, or anything like that. And I've worked with a lot of those people. Also, just by the way, I've worked with some very, very wealthy people, and that is not what brought them happiness by any stretch of the imagination. And the number of women we work with and their body is shifting and changing They look back at pictures and it's like, man, I wish I looked like that. Or, we look at, we talk about aging in the face and in the body and wrinkles and all the things and gray hair. And it's like, oh, if I looked like that now, I'd be so happy. It's like, okay, but you had that and you weren't happy. You could get back there to a certain extent for some people, depending on what it is. And you still won't be happy. I can promise you that. Happiness is largely a choice. And I think there's a level of processing that needs to be done. And I think when you start to fall in love with the journey of life, with our health challenges, with children, with business, with your work, with family, with friends, with physical healing, mental healing, emotional healing, all spiritual healing, all of the things, and you choose happiness along the way, that's how you find happiness. And there is no endpoint. I don't know anyone, and I've worked with a lot of people. I mean, a lot of mentors in all kinds of healing spaces, and they're never done. And I'll tell you, the couple people who I have met who quote unquote think they're done are very ego driven. By the way, they're also all males. But not throwing that just on males, because I'm sure there are women out there who also fall into that category, and it is largely ego driven. And that this life is a journey, and you really have to fall in love with the journey. And there's going to be sometimes you're going to feel better, sometimes you're not going to feel as good, sometimes you're going to look super good, sometimes you aren't. It's really about habits and choices and lifestyle. And the more you can fall in love with the journey, I think just the better off we all are in this process. And I'll tell you, for 2026, yes, I'm hoping for nothing super crazy to happen. And I know it'll be okay if it does. And I know it's for the better. I know all of this is about healing in a variety of ways. And I do my best on a daily basis to fall in love and to keep falling in love with that journey. And that is a huge invitation that I have for you. And it's never too late to start a journey of any sort. And we can always continue to fall in love with all of the journeys that we are really on here. The next one here, once again, like I said, a lot of these are going to overlap or be very similar here. But the next one I have for you is pick your hard. When in 2024, when I was really making some final decisions, when I got back from my experience in Colombia, and I knew deep down all of the answers. And when I was meditating, you can say when I tuned in, when I whatever we want to call it, a message I kept getting or kept feeling into was pick your heart. And it was like, there is no right or wrong answer here. It's just pick which heart you want to do. And it was like, if you stay, it's going to be hard, specifically emotionally and energetically, because it's not right. And it was my choice. If I wanted to stay, I could have absolutely stayed. And I think at some point I would have been called to leave again, and to make these choices again. Or it was, long-term hard was to stay. Short-term hard was to decide to leave and to change essentially, once again, like the vast majority of my life, and to change that. And it was short-term hard, a lot of hard packed into a very short amount of time, or maybe a little bit less hard, potentially extended over a longer period of time. And I think that applies for so many of us and all of our decisions. It's like there's no right or wrong decision. And this is like, we can call it faith or spirituality or religion. For me, there's so much overlap in all of those, that it's like there's no right or wrong choice. You're going to be led in your life to different things. And we can take a lot of different paths. And I don't think any are better or worse. I think some might be harder in certain ways and maybe not so hard in other ways. And once again, like pick your hard, short term hard, long term hard. I was heartbroken to leave my life. My life was good. Like my ex-husband was a good person. He was not a bad person. There was no abuse. There was no, I mean, there was like nothing crazy. And it was no longer right. And it was no longer fair for either one of us to be in that relationship and not be happy. And for me to stay in a place, to stay in Virginia, really for me to stay on the East Coast where it didn't feel right anymore. I had spent my whole life on the East Coast and I wanted to go in the Midwest, wanted to go to the West Coast. I needed to go somewhere different. And I felt that in my heart, in my soul, whatever, in my gut, wherever you want to, however you believe, that's where I felt it. And it was just a matter of picking your heart. And I'll kind of once again like go along with that. And that is you probably know the answer. You just don't trust yourself. And once again, like I think these two really go hand in hand. It's like there is no right or wrong answer. What feels best for you right now? And when there's a lot of uncertainty or indecision, especially over an extended period of time, I think a lot of it is we just don't want it. One, we don't want to make the decision because it's hard and we don't want to actively pick our heart and we're passively living our lives. Two, sometimes the answer is not what we want to hear. And it can really shift and change our lives pretty significantly. And that can also lead to some incredible things in our lives. And once again, I've worked with a lot of clients, especially my one-on-one clients who I've been working with for a long time, that these are the things that we're talking about. And there can be a lot of indecision of I don't know what's right. I don't know what I need to do for my body right now. It's like, okay, one, pause, take a breath. Stop putting so much pressure on yourself. Two, give yourself some space. Give yourself some space. And usually if you give yourself enough space, the decision is going to come to you. Three, sometimes you're not going to like that decision. And you just have to trust yourself. And once again, it might be hard right now. The decision that you make might be really, really, really hard right now. And what also does that leave you open to down the road? What amazingness does that leave you open to? And for me, if I hadn't left my life, I wouldn't have been able to explore the country like I have and will continue to do over the next handful of years, which is at least the game plan for right now. We don't know exactly where we're going to go next, but we don't plan on being in Arizona for this summer. I wouldn't have met my partner. I wouldn't have, he has a cat that I have absolutely fallen in love with, who also very much loves me. If you follow me on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, Cusco is all there all the time in the stories. And he's absolutely adorable and precious. And I mean, man, my heart just like overfills with love. I've been able to meet in person multiple people on my team at this point, and I've been able to build deeper relationships with many of them. I have also, for better or worse, definitely for better and with a level of discomfort, been able to grow in some really different ways. And I wouldn't have done that in the life that I was living before. And I'm very grateful once again, despite how hard some of those lessons have been, and I'm going to share a couple of these here today, I wouldn't have learned them and I wouldn't have opened myself up in the same ways. And while, once again, pick your heart, while it's been incredibly challenging, it's also allowed me to build relationships that are deeper than I've ever known in my entire life. And to find community and to find partnership and companionship in very, very different ways. And so once again, like there are no right or wrong answers, in my opinion. It's just a matter of make one decision. You don't have to have all of the plans figured out. When I left Virginia, I had my car, a storage unit, and a place for like a month and a half in Michigan. That was my game plan. I didn't have a game plan after that. And as I got up there, as days and weeks went by, the game plan shifted and changed, and more pieces kind of fell in line, and more and more and more, until we got to where we are now. And I'm very grateful for the life that I have right now, even with the challenges that I'm still experiencing, and in a variety of ways. So it's okay. You can't and once again, like for me, like you can't make a wrong decision. It's just a matter of picking your heart and also trusting yourself to make the next decision. Once again, you don't need to have all of this decisions figured out, just the next one. And then once you make one, oftentimes the next one's going to appear, and then the next one, and then the next one. The next one, so now I'm going to shift just a little bit here. And these next handful will kind of go all hand in hand. One of the bravest one of the bravest things, I couldn't decide if I wanted to do this one or one other one first. So next one here is one of the bravest things you can do is to be vulnerable. And I will never forget. So after that November 2023 journey that I had, I ended up meeting someone new, a new mentor in my life, and she said something to me that I really scoffed at initially. And I had known at that point, when I have a very strong feeling against something, I know that's something for me to look at. And this had already kind of popped up a little bit in sprinkles in the months leading up to this. But she said, you have to be vulnerable to get close to someone. And I was working through friendships. I was working through my relationship with my ex-husband at the time. And for me, a certain level of vulnerability is very easy for me. And what I share on this podcast, I have processed, is not extremely vulnerable for me by and large, because I've taken the time to process. Anything I share on social media, I very rarely share things I'm actively going through, because I need the time and space to process it and feel into it to be able to share it and feel comfortable sharing it. The level of vulnerability can't be too high for me to share. And this has been something, especially in my relationship with Jonathan, that has continues to be a point of, I want to say argument, so that's not quite the right word, because we don't really have big arguments, but disagreements, it doesn't even quite sound right, but conflict. When we have conflict, it's usually because one of us doesn't feel seen and heard. I'll say it's usually Jonathan. And largely, it's because I'm not opening up very well, and I'm trying to work through things enough to be able to share them, which I'm also continuing to learn. That does not need to be the case in my personal life. It should remain something in my professional life, and doesn't have to be something in my personal life. And I'm gonna share the next one here too, because I want to share a more recent story and where I share some of this. So the next one here, and I'm going to tie these together. Kindergarten lesson here. Sharing is caring. And what I really mean by this is, sharing is caring. You don't have to hold it all in by yourself. And we recently had, once again, conflict, disagreement. We don't really fight like yelling and arguing and things like that. We've both done a lot of work, and that's just not really how we communicate with each other. And not all that long ago, probably the closest we've ever been to an actual argument occurred. And Jonathan initiated. He was feeling very frustrated, was sharing that frustration, and For me, the level of emotion that he was sharing was very overwhelming for me. I shut down, reverted back to some of my old patterns of avoiding, shutting down, like going into full on freeze, full on kind of mode. I was able to get a handful of sentences out to in regards to things that he was sharing, and largely I just shut down. And at one point we paused because he could tell. I mean, I like couldn't get any words out. Like I was crying. I couldn't get anything out. And by the way, there was nothing being directly targeted at me. He was communicating in a healthy way. And I couldn't handle it at that time. And so he said, what do you need right now? And I said, I just need some space. And so he left for like 15 minutes. I cried. He came back. He comforted me. He came and like laid with me as I continued to cry. We took the day, and then the following day, I came up and wrote some things down. I felt like I needed to just clear my head a little bit, take some space, write some things down that I wanted to share. And I wrote like 2 whole pages, typed out 2 whole pages, single space typed of things I wanted to share. And at the end of the following day, I said, hey, I am ready to share if you are open. And by the way, these were things that were incredibly challenging for me to share. These were things that, for me growing up, I was hurt constantly by things that my mom shared with me or told me when she was drunk, which was a good portion of the time. And so for me growing up, and I know children of alcoholic parents will 100% relate to this, and some others will also relate to this pattern of I don't like to share things that may hurt other people. I know what it's like to be hurt, so I'm not going to share things that are going to hurt someone else, that could potentially hurt someone else's feelings. And I did that at this time, and I did it in a way that, and I even preempted this, and I was like, hey, look. I'm fully aware of this pattern, and here are the things that I've been holding in and not sharing with you because I feel like some of these things, if they were told to me, would hurt my feelings, and I did not want to do that to you. And one of the things that Jonathan said to me afterwards was, you cannot hold these things in. Even if they might hurt my feelings, I need you to share them with me and let me in. And I will tell you after that conversation, and by the way, like this was arguably the most challenging conversation I've ever had in my entire life. I was staring at my paper the whole time. I said, please don't look at me while I'm sharing this. I also said, please let me finish all of it, which with the brain injuries, I knew was already going to be a challenge. I was like, please just let me get this all out. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to get it out. And once again, I shared this in a very effectively communicatively in a very healthy way to communicate. There was no pointing, there was no there was no like, you do this, you do this, da da da. It was, I feel this way. A lot of I feel statements, therapy paying off here. And I felt like I shared most of these things in a very, very healthy way. And once again, like conflict resolved, we were able to, and we are continuing to work through many of these things. So, and it was a game changer for me. I mean, I was feeling so heavy and so weighed down and so consumed by the things that I was feeling and not sharing with him that just sharing those things alone, even right afterwards, Jonathan asked me, he's like, how do you feel right now? Like just getting this stuff off of your chest. And, we did some like physical touch and just like holding it because that's very regulating for both of our nervous systems. And so there was just like, hand holding, a little bit of cuddling to calm both of our nervous systems down and to regulate, especially for me. It's very, very regulating for me to co-regulate with someone. And I told him afterwards, I was like, man, like I feel lighter. He's like, yeah, you feel a lot lighter just getting that off your chest. So no more holding it in. And I'll say I continue to feel lighter. It's been a few weeks now since we've had that conversation, and the weight that I was holding with some of that, I would say like 80% of the weight that I was holding with that is still gone. Sharing with people in your life is a big deal. And I know how hard it is. And the feedback I get from a lot of people, especially when we talk about significant others or family members, close family members, is I already know how they're going to respond. And to that, I have two things that I usually kind of share. One, not everyone is worthy of your level of vulnerability. And what I mean by that is when we let people in, there are layers to this. And it can start with something that happened when you were a child, something that maybe you recently went through, and see how they respond. And if they show up for you and respond in we can say, just like an appropriate manner, you can keep going. Keep giving them opportunities to show up for you. And here's the other thing. Just because they didn't show up for you at one point doesn't mean they're never going to show up for you either. Especially with a significant other, especially with family members, sometimes we need to give them multiple chances over years to show up for us. And if they consistently show you they are not capable of holding that space for you, of showing up for you, well, then you have a decision to make. You either keep them at a distance or you break some of those ties. And I'll tell you once again from personal experience, neither option is great. We want these people that we love to be able to show up for us in the way that we want them to show up for us. And same, vice versa. We want to be able to show up for people in our life the way that they need us to show up for them. And some people don't have that capacity or are not in that place. And so we've got one of two options. And this played a big role in my decision to leave my former marriage. He just couldn't show up for me the way I needed him to. And that doesn't make him a bad person. That doesn't mean he has a bad heart. It's just he wasn't capable of the level of growth. We were at just different places. And it wasn't going to change. And so my decision was to leave because I wanted more. I wanted different. And I felt good in that. And I continue to feel good in that decision. Not that it was easy, and it was the right decision. I tried this with my mom for many, 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 many years. And at one point I said, enough is enough. And I cut her off. And I said, unfortunately, at this time, I need to focus on my own healing. And that means we cannot have a relationship. And we didn't talk for the 3 years previous to when she passed. And even a couple of years before that, it was still really dicey and not great. So you just have decisions to make. And just because one person didn't show up for you doesn't mean there's not someone who will show up for you. But you have to give people a chance, and sometimes a few chances, to show up for you. As scary as that is, and as much as it can hurt, and it's worth it. And that's how you build really deep relationships that are going to fill your heart and your soul, and also have the capacity to completely crush you. And both are okay. And that can be really hard. And I know it continues to be hard for me. And I can continue to still really, really work on that. Along with that, and kind of the last one in this little section here is relationships will test your healing more than anything else will. I spent years and years doing really deep healing work myself. And I felt so good and capable of doing it myself. And, my first test was kind of with friendships, and I felt like I was doing an okay job, and I was aware of patterns that were coming up and coming out and all these things. And the real test was when I got into my current relationship. And this is what I wanted. And I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. And basically, it felt for me like once we really started to get into the relationship, I mean, like ground zero, like starting over in the healing process. And I go, holy moly, I didn't know how strong some of these patterns still were. I don't even know what this looks like. I have a lot of tools in my toolbox and I don't even know which ones to use. Do I need new tools? What does this even look like? All of the things. Relationships will challenge your healing more than anything, and they will accelerate your healing and expand your healing in ways that you never can by yourself. And it will be hard and it will be scary. And yeah, you might get hurt at times and you'll be okay. And you will grow. And I will tell you, I mean, you can build some really deep relationships and they are not going to be easy. I love Jonathan so much and our relationship is amazing. And that doesn't mean it's not hard either. And I want to, like, full disclosure, our relationship is great and amazing. And yeah, it's incredibly hard. I don't want to say a lot of the time. And there are many challenges that still come up and it can still feel very hard at various times. So relationships are hard and it's okay and worth it. Whether that's friendships, family, significant others, children, I don't think it really matters, but they are important. And they are super, super important. Okay. These are kind of random and they're important in various ways. This one is really for females and or if you have females in your life. Know your cycle inside and out and teach those around you about your own cycle. I have this conversation a lot. And, none of us are taught as women what is happening in our cycle. And if you are on birth control, it's different because whether you're on hormonal birth control or not, it changes things biologically, which then can also change things mentally, emotionally, and spiritually as well. I firmly believe and have seen it too many times not to believe it, and having personally experienced it too many times not to believe it. We, as women, I mean, our cycle is everything. And we really need to learn and understand about it. What are the strengths in each part of our cycle? What is going on? How do we notice changes? How do we bring awareness without judgment, without criticism, in how much hormones impact our lives? Once again, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Man, it's a game changer. And I'll tell you, I have spent a lot of time digging even deeper into the education myself over the last couple years and also really sharing with Jonathan in particular. Here's where I am in my cycle. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm experiencing. Here's what I need, or here's what I don't need right now. And on days that I feel very hormonal, and maybe that means, I feel like a rage spiral going on. Maybe I feel just emotions are very surface level. Maybe I'm feeling really foggy or tired, or maybe I'm feeling really good. I share all of those things and really try to share all of those things. And I have started over the last year or so really trying to help other women teach their partners, one, educating themselves, but also educating their partners and what this really looks like and feels like and different things we may experience throughout our cycle. That's also why I'm continuing to do more and more podcast episodes around hormones because once again, no one teaches us this. No one, which is wild. By the way, most of our doctors, even our OBGYNs, don't learn this stuff inside and out, which is terribly unfortunate and the reality of the situation. So if we're not taught this as women, you better believe men are not taught this either. And I think this is such a valuable education for us to know our own bodies, to connect further with our own bodies, but also for our partners to understand what we are going through. And I'll say this is even more important once we start going through perimenopause and starting in our mid to late 30s into our early 40s, things are going to start shifting at some point during this time. Some people, it happens a little bit later. Usually not. Usually there are early signs of shifts if we pay attention. And I just, especially with all of the fuss around perimenopause right now, it's so important that we really learn and understand our bodies, because that's how we advocate for ourselves. That's when we start to know something's off and we need support, or we need some extra testosterone, or something needs to change, something needs to shift, or we need support in different areas. And our biology changes as women, and we are one of few species that our biology changes drastically, that impacts our physical body in quite the variety of ways, not just our hormones and our ability to reproduce. This changes our body systemically, and one of our next episodes is going to be all about this and the shifts and changes that happen. But also, this impacts our emotions. This impacts our decision-making capacities. This impacts our physical, like how we look. This impacts our nurturing tendencies. So many things. Our cognitive health, our brain health, our heart health. All of these things are impacted. Our skin, our hair, our nails, all of these things. And no one teaches us why this is happening, when it's happening, what to look for, how to support our bodies during this time. Nothing. And I think this is just so important, which is why I try and provide so much education, especially nowadays, around this topic, because it's so important. So, going off of that, next lesson here, we only get one body. Take care of it. This does not mean perfection. This does not mean you have to eat paleo or Whole30. This does not, especially going into January here, does not mean we need to work out every day. This does not mean we need to take all of the supplements. This means take care of yourself. The small ways go a long, long way. And if you are just starting out, start small, start basic, because the basic things go a long way. Yes, sometimes we absolutely need other things, and we only get one body. And here's the thing, like, especially, and I know I've talked about this before, I worked with a lot of advanced age clients, 65 plus, which I don't even think 65 anymore I would consider advanced age. And there's a lot of things that happens as we get older. And for me right now, with living in an RV lifestyle, and we live in a resort, they call it a resort, we can call it an RV park. And where we are right now, there's a lot of long-term guests. And a lot of those people are older, 70 plus. And we have made friends with many of these individuals. And there are so many things that come up: joint replacements, medications, heart issues, lung issues, all of these things that I know can by and large be avoided or limited. And when I share what I do, and I'm usually pretty brief and I always share what I do, because it can be very challenging to explain, especially if you're new to this space. They have a lot of questions. And, I see these things, they're like, what can I do now? And I'm like, there's a lot you can still do. And a lot of this could have been prevented. And it's, they're like, yeah, I smoked for 30 years, or I worked myself to death for the last 25 years, and now I'm paying the price. And it's like, okay, maybe we don't do that. Maybe we don't kill ourselves forever. just to try and get by and do all these things. We're not superheroes. We're not meant to be. We only get one body, and that doesn't mean you need to be perfect. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy. It doesn't mean you need to look a certain way. It doesn't mean there's one lifestyle or way of living that works for everyone. No, it doesn't mean any of that. And basic care goes a long way. Focus on whole nutrient-dense foods. Please, please, please drink some water. The number of people I've talked to recently who drink anywhere between 10 to 30 ounces of water a day is really mind-blowing for me. Water is so important. Water, just drink some water. Go for a walk every once in a while. Try and get some good sleep as best you can. Try and prioritize some sleep. Try and give yourself some space every once in a while to just decompress a little bit. Like these basics go a long way. You only get one body. Take good care of it. Next one here. So I have two more as we wrap up here. The next one here, and I put this down, and I'm going to kind of revise this just a little bit, but I wrote, pick your family wisely. And what I really mean by that is pick who you surround yourself with wisely. There's a lot of books, Millionaire Mindset and all of these things that talk about your inner circle. And yes, I believe surrounding yourself with successful people can go a long way. And for me, surrounding myself with people who are on a healing journey goes an even longer way. It's really hard for me to have small talk. It's really hard for me to have surface level conversations. I just don't have any interest in the superficial anymore. And Jonathan and I laugh all the time. He's definitely the people person in our relationship. I am not. And I do love people and I love talking to people and helping people and all those things. And by and large, I don't need a lot of that outside of work. One, because I do get a lot of that inside of work, but also it doesn't fill my cup up just talking and hanging out with random people. I want to go hang out with people who want to talk about their trauma, who want to talk about what they're doing for healing, who can hold space for me, who I can hold space for, who they're sharing hard things that they're going through what they're going through in their life, and not just talking about the weather and the clouds and the sun and the rain and random things going on in the world. And I just don't have any interest. And that's not who I want to surround myself with. And so I think we really need to, and especially as we go along in our healing journey and we're reevaluating relationships. And once again, it's like that vulnerability aspect. Who can you be vulnerable with? Who do you feel safe with? Who do you not feel safe with? And what does that really look like for you? And sometimes we have to make some hard decisions and put some people outside of our immediate circle for a period of time, or maybe that's forever. And I firmly believe, and I have seen this in practice for myself and for many people around me, that when we put up boundaries, when we make these decisions and maybe put some space between people that we have previously very cared about and have felt very close with, that new people will come in. It may not happen immediately. It can take some time, and they will come in. And man, can that really fill up your life in some amazing, amazing ways. The last one here is kind of a fun one, and I did want to end with this one. And the way I wrote this one is, you are a vibe. Lean into that. And what I really mean by that, so I work from home, and I'm live in an RV. It's a big RV, and it's still a small space, generally speaking. And I know a lot of people struggle to work from home and can get caught up in living or working in certain ways and being in their bubble, and I can too. And we're a vibe. You are a vibe. And one of the things I do every day, especially on work days, is what vibe am I feeling today? And I might dress in a certain way. I might accessorize with jewelry. I might wear my hair a certain way. I might put on certain music. I might choose a certain place to work or a certain way to work for that day, or to, to dance, or to have a tea, or to have a different drink, or whatever it may be. And these can be really subtle, but you're a vibe. Like, lean into that. Surround yourself with things that put you in a certain vibe that makes you feel, I'm not even say good, that makes you feel like you for that day. And that can change on a daily basis. That can change on an hourly basis. That can change on a minute by minute basis. And that is okay. Lean into that. It makes a big difference. Another big thing I do is smells. I have a variety of like sprays, and they're all organic and all natural and all the things. Sprays and essential oils and different things that I'll wear, I'll spritz myself, use in my environment. Maybe it's a candle, maybe it's sage or Palo Santo or things like that. But that stuff is a vibe. Like, have stuff that puts you in your vibe for that day and lean into it. And I think that can really create some amazing spaces for us and just change how you show up just for yourself. And other people will notice, by the way. But it can really shift things in a big way. Lean into it. Don't judge yourself. Like, yeah, really feel into like what makes you feel good. For me, outfits are a really big one. I like, as I'm getting ready, the outfit for the day is really, really sets a vibe for me. And sometimes it's just a shirt, sometimes it's a whole outfit, sometimes it's just jewelry, sometimes it's makeup. It just really depends on the day. And all of it is good, but lean into that because it makes life a little bit more fun. And we all deserve that in our life. So I think I'm going to end there. Happy New Year. Hope you had great holidays. If any of these feel particularly good or maybe not so good, I think those are bigger things to look at. If they don't quite fit, if they bring up some stuff for you or feel like, well, ooh, a little twingy for you, maybe spend some time with it. Maybe journal, maybe ponder, think about it, and see what really comes up for you. As always, thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow. If it resonates, please leave us a 5-star review. They really, really, really mean the world to us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.